So hello and welcome to the video. I'm sorry, I have a cold. That's actually my favourite line from the Monty Python Dead Parrot sketch. A little known line, quite well hidden, but it's surrealist genius if you ask me. So apologies for the slightly husky voice, but I am aboard the Norwegian Epic on a 7-night cruise around the Mediterranean, starting and ending in Barcelona. This is the last day of the cruise. We're getting quite close to Palma, Mallorca, so I've been aboard for 6 nights now and I've got to know my cabin reasonably well, and it's time to give you a tour of that cabin. And it's a weird one. It is without question the weirdest cabin I've ever been in. There may be weirder ones out there, but I suspect they'd be sweet. So something specific has been done to them to make them weird. But on this ship, every balcony cabin looks like this. It is very weird. And indeed, it is so weird that Norwegian never made another ship like this, which in cruise terms is really quite unusual. So if you'd like to see what is so weird about this cabin, stick around. Hi, I'm Matt and I love cruising. I love the ships, the places you visit, the entertainment, and every now and again I'll also enjoy a drink. So subscribe to the channel so you can come with me on my next cruise. So where was my cabin? I'm going to start a deck up this time, on deck 15, right between the entrance to the buffet and the doors out to the pool area. Down the stairs to deck 14. Just ahead of me is the Splash Academy area where parents can park their pre-teen kids for the evening. Right turn down a slightly more austere corridor than we'd found on the Norwegian Gem. Note that the fish swim towards the front of the ship, which can be helpful in orienting yourself in these windowless corridors, particularly at the end of the evening when the drinks package may have worked its magic a little. Mum was in cabin 14032, but I ended up a little further down the corridor in cabin 14020. So you come in through the main door and immediately you get an idea of what's going on here. There's something over here, there's something over here, there's a wash basin in the middle of the cabin, and there's this slightly odd curtain thing. So let's address that first. This is a split bathroom with a toilet over here in its own little cubicle. There you go, proof if you needed it. And then there is a shower over here in its own little cubicle. No complaints about the shower. Good water pressure, good temperature. 2 dispensers of potions if you're a hopeless bloke and don't bring your own. Overall, the shower itself I've had no issues with. The problem though, as I close the door, the problem though is that they are in the cabin. This curtain is, I suppose, designed to provide some privacy for people who are using the toilet or the shower, and it sort of works, I suppose, but it doesn't prevent sound coming through. And I won't elaborate on specifically what I mean, dear viewer, but it's not very pleasant to have such an open set of facilities. It's also a little bit cramped in here as well. If you're a larger fella like myself, not a lot of turning space, as it were. And then of course you have the wash basin that is out sort of in the main body of the cabin. Not sure I like it, not particularly big wash basin. There is though some actual decent storage up here for all your bits and pieces, so that's a plus. But I just don't think it really works as a bathroom configuration. One other small thing that I've never seen before is actually a laundry hamper down here where you can chuck your dirty stuff as you go through the cruise. That's probably quite a nice feature, but I'm not sure it really works. So turning this way, you'll see the second slightly odd feature, which is the waviness of the walls. Now a lot of cruise cabins have this, as it's a way of pinching a little bit of space off of the neighbouring cabin to give a bit of extra room for the bed to be longer than it might otherwise be. If I take a few steps back, you can see the wall here is the demarcation of your space, and so you lose a little bit of space here, which is where the headboard of the room behind goes, but you gain a little bit of space over here where you put your headboard into the space that would otherwise be occupied by the cabin next door to you. And I don't think it works. You end up with this sofa which is concave or convex, or, well, I'm not sure what the word is, but it's just not particularly comfortable. It's actually reasonably soft, so it's not awful to sit on, but it's just a weird design to have a curved sofa like this. But the major problem I've had is the bed, which is just very, very short. Now, normally beds have a bit of a curvature at the foot to give you a little bit of extra length when you're lying flat. This actually has the curvature at the head. You can probably make it out because of that curved headboard. So if you're tall like me, you'd want to sleep right down the middle. The trouble though is that there's quite a distinct join. The bed's just been made and you can actually see the join because it is so pronounced, even when the bedding has been freshly made. So what I've had to do is sleep diagonally, and even then I barely fit. I'll insert now a short sequence where I illustrate this. Obviously, if you're tall, sleeping diagonally is quite a pain for your bed partner. If both of you are tall, it's going to be very, very difficult. And I reckon this bed presents a challenge to anyone over 5'8", maybe even people over 5'6" are going to find it difficult to comfortably get their feet in with the sheets tucked in. It is a very uncomfortable bed, and it is probably the worst bed that I've had on a cruise ship. Around it is the usual shelves and switches, no USB ports because this ship was built before USB was deemed to be important, so you're left with the challenge of plugging your stuff in halfway across the room. Not uncommon on cruise ships, but irritating nevertheless. So that is the bed, and it's just not very good. So spinning around to the other side, you have a wardrobe which is of reasonable size, no real complaints with the hanging space in here, but there's no drawers, there's nowhere where you might put your smalls, chuck your shoes at the bottom perhaps, and elsewhere there just aren't any drawers, which again is another very, very weird design feature. You have this curved cupboard here which actually contains quite a lot of space, and I suppose this is what goes for drawers, and I've just thrown my clothes in here in a vague configuration, but I've actually needed to use the shelf that contains the safe because there's so little storage space, even for someone like me who travels fairly light. Underneath it you have a mini bar with outrageously priced water, Norwegian being one cruise line that does not include water in the drinks package, so charges you an extortionate amount to buy any. A makeup space here with a little stool that comes out and a mirror, hello, and obviously some preparation space, my laptop working on next week's video, and a TV. Now, it's an old TV, very poor quality, in fact laughably poor quality in modern terms, but the particularly weird thing about it is that the channels all cut out when you're in port. You get a message saying, sorry, the signal strength is weak, we can't present the channel to you, but it's very peculiar that when you're at sea, bobbing around and moving, the signal locks on perfectly and gives you the channels. When you're in port, it doesn't, they all cut out. I suspect there's some commercial shenanigans going on behind that. It just seems implausible that they can't make the satellite work on a stationary ship when they can make it work on a moving ship, but it is incredibly frustrating that when you're in port, as we have been a lot on this cruise, you just can't get any of the TV channels to work. Down here in the spaghetti zone is where the only plugs in the room are to be found, and they are up under here. Two American and 2 European. I've got my magic adapter in, which gives me USB conversions and also UK power sockets, but it's extremely inconvenient, very limited, and obviously nowhere near the bed where you actually want to be able to plug things in. They do give you this handy little hole to feed your cables out of, but that is poor compensation for an otherwise poor design. And then over here behind some more spaghetti, you have what I can only assume is a shoe cupboard with these sort of baskets that you perhaps are supposed to put your shoes in. I don't really know. I've not used it, and you can't really use it for anything else because the baskets are so intrusive. Again, slightly odd design, but not as odd as this. This is a connecting door, but over here you have what look like shelves. They're locked into position, so I can't actually move this one, but I can move this one, and it looks as if that was unlocked over here, I'd be able to balance it on these pegs over here and create some shelving. It's extremely weird, and obviously my cabin attendant hasn't decided that I needed shelves to unlock them to bring them into use, but I just can't see why anybody would think that's a good idea. Let's talk for a minute about lights. You have some reading lights by the bed, which are actually quite powerful. You have to really quite wrestle them to get them on, and it's a double click off. You have an interesting headlight thing here, which does give the room a bit of ambiance, but it's one of those rooms where the first night you spend an age trying to work out where all the switches are to turn everything off, and the absolute doozy is this one. And if you ever stay in a cabin like this, the switch is to be found down under here, just there, and that magically turns the light off. Good luck finding that if you've had a few shandies in your first night on the cruise. So to the window, and another thing I find quite strange. There are no net curtains in the curtain configuration. It's just a sort of blackout configuration. So if you pull in of a morning and there's another cruise ship docked right across from you, which is often the case, you have two choices. Leave the curtain open and show everyone your full glory, or close it and have the room in darkness. There's no net option, which is usually what you would deploy in those situations. And the other challenge with this curtain is that it's not quite long enough. I'm not sure how well this is going to be shown, but if you have the curtain all the way across to this end, which I actually struggle to do, you get a gap appear at the other end. If you have it fully secured at the other end, you have a gap at this end. So you can't really win with these curtains, and I don't really like them. But the balcony is pretty good, actually. I have to give credit to the balcony here. Larger than many that I've had, very comfortable chair, little table, and obviously a fantastic view of Mallorca as we close in on Palma. So a very weird room that I have not enjoyed being in. My mum is also on this cruise with me. She has a very similar room, and she has had all sorts of maintenance challenges with hers. Her toilet has blocked twice, which is not fun, and it also seemed to be reset overnight, so the toilet flushed 6 or 8 times through the night, presumably as they ran tests on the system to try and unclog whatever was causing the backlog. Her air conditioning has also not been working, but she's now got that fixed. So it's an older ship, it's a very peculiarly designed cabin. Not all of it seems to be working, and to be completely honest with you, dear viewer, there is no way I would pick the Norwegian Epic for another cruise. I will make a video about the ship itself, because the weirdness does extend beyond just the cabins in terms of the design of the ship, so look out for that video on the channel. And I'll also make a video about the ports we visited, and a further video about an overall summary of the cruise experience. So thanks for watching. Please give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you're new. Leave me a comment. Have you sailed on the Epic? Do you agree that it is just a bit weird? And if you'd like to support what I do more directly, I have a Patreon account, the link to which is in the description below. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.